There we go. That's a lot better. So the Holistic Life Foundation is a Baltimore-based nonprofit, and our focus is on yoga and mindfulness-based programming. I like to go back and talk about my base in the practice because, I found out a lot later on in life that I don't look like most yoga and mindfulness instructors. When we started going to teach and do trainings, it was started by myself, my brother, and a good friend of ours from college who happens to be Puerto Rican, and we would go places to teach, and people would always ask us if we were the band. Everywhere we went, they asked if we were the band, and we made a joke about it running forward, but it's just good to give you a base of where we came from with the practice. I grew up in West Baltimore, right in the heart of where the Freddie Gray uprisings happened, right where The Wire was filmed, but my parents happened to be into yoga and meditation when I was born. My brother likes to joke and call them hood hippies. It was funny now, but back then it wasn't that funny because meditation and yoga, being vegan, all those things are extremely cool now, but back then they were off. It just wasn't something we shared outside of our homes, and it was just something that we kept inside. Every morning, our morning consisted of my dad would wake me and my brother up. We would meditate, and then we would go downstairs and watch Woody Woodpecker and Scooby-Doo and eat breakfast and go to school. And every single morning we meditated. It was just something that was a part of our life. There's pictures of myself and my brother growing up in retreat centers. There were a lot of retreat centers that taught yoga and meditation and contemplative practices between Northern Virginia and Philadelphia at around that time. So we grew up in a lot of those different places. So fast forward a little bit, we got out of our practice. We met the third co-founder at the University of Maryland College Park, and we got back heavily into our practice. And it was one of those things that we saw a huge change in ourselves. We wanted to share it with other people. The Holistic Life Foundation started in 2001 with an after-school program for 15 boys fifth grade boys that they want us to teach football to. They want us to be football coaches. Nothing against being football coaches at all. I love football. I played football, but we decided we wanted to do an after-school yoga program. And at that point in 2001, yoga wasn't as popular. The principal said, whatever you guys are going to do, I don't care, as long as you take care of these 15 kids that are my biggest behavior problems. And things went really well. We picked up less kids from detention. There were less fights. The kids started to be empathetic towards one another, and they actually started helping out their friends. And these were the kids who were the bullies at school, and they were totally changing. So fast forward, our after-school program right now is 21st Century Community Learning Center funded and has grown to serve about 163 kids a day. And that's our after-school program, lots of good enrichment activities. Of course, the daily yoga and mindfulness practice, but there's also martial arts, there's STEM programs, there's drumming, there's art, there's entrepreneurship programs. There's a lot we want to expose the kids to. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that my brother and I grew up in West Baltimore. We went to a private school, Friends School of Baltimore, and we saw the things that we were exposed to and had opportunities to do that our friends didn't. So we wanted to provide those opportunities for the kids that were in the neighborhood that we grew up in. Another big program we have in schools is our Mindful Moment program. It's a school-wide initiative where there's a 15-minute practice at the beginning and the end of the day that the entire school takes part in. Then there's also our alternative to suspension room. So when kids are angry, if they're stressed out, if they can't focus, the program's evaluated in elementary school and a high school. At the high school, the kids can kind of self-refer or get referred by a teacher. At the elementary school, they have to be referred by a teacher. They come to the room, they get 20 minutes with our staff. They come in, they do some breathing to center themselves. They talk to our staff. Our staff aren't counselors, so they don't counsel the students. They just provide active listening and mindful listening and listen to the students. And then they go over specific breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, and meditations. And within 20 minutes, the kids, and tea. The kids love tea. So we provide tea to the kids, and we send them back to class. And it's had amazing results at the schools. At the elementary school, which is, again, in the heart of where the Freddie Gray uprisings happened, excuse me, the suspension rate has been 0 for the past 2 years. And at the high school, suspension rates went down, fights went down. Overall school climate has improved, and freshman GPA went up, and freshman promotions were at the highest rate in the past, I guess, like 25 or 30 years. So the program's having a huge impact on the individual students, but also on the school climate overall. Gotcha. So some of the major benefits to a yoga and mindfulness practice, self-regulation. A lot of the kids learn tools to regulate themselves. It's not someone having to tell them to do something. It's them being able to kind of feel anger or sadness or stress rising in their body and know what to do with it. Reducing stress, reducing anxiety, things around dealing with the trauma mentally and in their minds and in their bodies. We assume that everyone has gone through some trauma in Baltimore and wherever we work, but there's a specific way you can deliver yoga and mindfulness practices that can help people deal with that trauma in a way that's beneficial for them, and the practices aren't going to do any harm. Excuse me. Some other benefits, connection. Most kids, you can't ask them to care about people around them or their environment if they don't care about themselves. The practice connects them to themselves first, and then they can start to connect with the people around them. And you notice kind of that love ripple out from there. And it's beautiful to see a change from the kids that we start off as bullies, literally bullies beating other kids up, to the kids that are actually helping the younger kids with their homework or out and doing community volunteer work or things along those lines. We did the first randomized control trial on yoga and mindfulness and urban youth with the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and Penn State University. And we got some great results. The first round, they were all cognitive measures, good things around behavior, around ruminating thoughts, around stress, around just focus in class. And then the second round, we did physiological measures and follow-up as well. I think one of the major things about there's a couple major things about our programs. One is reciprocal teaching. Wherever you go, you'll see the students leading the practices and with young people. I guess when we work with adults as well, but we want the people to feel empowered by the practice and know how to share it with others and to use it in their lives. Practicality is a huge thing with us. We want them to know ways to use it in their lives that don't have anything to do with us or sitting on a yoga mat or sitting on a meditation cushion. There have to be real practical, real-life applications to the practices for it to start ripple out into their lives. And then the next thing is they have a skill that they can use for their entire lives. A lot of times people are given skills that may only be applicable for some situations, but as you get older, life gets more stressful. So you need these practices even more as you grow and you get older. A lot of the students that we work with end up coming back and becoming teachers. So about half of our staff now, which is a program staff of about 30, are former students of ours. And that reciprocal teaching model is the reason that they're able to come back and it's easy to train them. About a minute. Okay. We, like I said, we do a lot of trainings as well. A lot of it is around, our trauma-informed yoga and mindfulness practices. There are ways that you can present the practice that can bring up trauma. A lot of people do mindfulness meditation with people, which are all about silence. What we do is a lot of guided meditations, which are around holding that space for stillness, but also making it a full space instead of an empty space so all that stuff can't come up. We give kids a space for inner peace. A lot of times most of these kids don't have a place where they can go to a retreat center, or their lives are pretty chaotic, whether it's at home or in school or in their neighborhood. And once you give a kid or an adult a place for inner peace, it's something they can always go back to and always can kind of get their base no matter what's going on around them. And a lot of our students, whether they're adults, whether they're kids, because we do a lot of adult work too, mental crisis facilities and drug treatment centers and homeless shelters. And a lot of those people have gone through trauma as well, but it just looks a little different. The practice looks a little different, but it's still all the same tools, but it's just what's practical for their life struggles. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any clarifying questions from the group? Did I hear? Okay. Ali, okay.
Yeah, I was just curious to know what some of the challenges are, or what some of the processes actually operationalizing the project in schools were. Just like the nuts and bolts, because I know you probably have a lot of time to answer that.
I think one of the major things is getting teachers and the administration to buy into the fact that you aren't taking away from academic time, you're only enhancing academic time. When the kids do have these practices, they're able to kind of focus and self-regulate, so the teachers spend less time on classroom management and more time on actual learning.
Are there any plans to replicate that program in other areas of the state?
Yeah, the question was, are there any plans to replicate the project or work in other environments, other communities?
Yeah, so I'm from West Baltimore, so that's where my heart is. That's where we do most of our work, but we do programs nationally and internationally. So we do programs all over the place and trainings. And we have a satellite location that we work out of in Charlottesville, Virginia, and we're working on setting one up in Boston. and just another possibility for Cleveland. So we do work all over the globe, actually. But I love Baltimore, so.
So Ali will also have to be leaving to get a train, so I'm gonna let you watch your time, so if you need to
It's
run out,
2:20 to train.
yeah. But I do wanna thank you for that, and just let everybody thank you for your presentation. Yeah, one more quick question.
I just have one more question. So, in this era of hyper masculinity, particularly with our youth, how do you even start the question of saying men can do yoga and men can do meditation when that seems to be at such odds with cultural norms and what also, society is talking about?
So when we go into a room and we're starting to talk, we'll let them know about the physiological, neurological science behind the practice and the practicality of it, what stress does to your body, what anxiety does to your body, what trauma does to your body and mind. And then we let them know how the practice can help them with those things. And then once you give them something experiential that they can feel, like we won't start off with, hey, let's roll out some mats and do some stretching. It might be, we'll start off with show them how to take a belly breath and tell them the benefits of it. Then they feel the calmness of being able to just slow themselves down with the breath. And then they want more, and they're like sponges, and they're asking for more. And a lot of the times, if we're working with guys in the school and they want to, and they're into athletics, there's specific practices that are for athletes. And then a lot of the times when you can go to Google and ask someone who their favorite athlete is, and most of the times you can type in their name in meditation or yoga, and a picture will pop up of them practicing, and you can show them that, like, this is the person that's your hero, like, they practice too. So there's a lot of ways to sell them on the practice.
I think that's a good question. I just looked at Ali, and that was like, okay, so I'm sold. It can happen. It can happen. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're actually deconstructing the panel. But I hope you understand and can be patient with us because of the time framing. We don't want people stranded here at the APA. Our next panelist is Bob Fairchild. And Bob, you may end up with all of the time that you want. I'm going to still use a 10-minute cycle in case, so we can make sure we have the interaction. But please don't feel pressed in your presentation. And thank you very much. I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hey, Ali, are you a Greek?
No.
How would you like to join Omega?
Right here, wrong organization.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bob Fairchild, even though it says Robert Fairchild, but I go by Bob. Bob Fairchild. I'm the International Chairman for Fatherhood and Mentoring for the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. And basically what that is the Fatherhood and Mentoring, our Fatherhood and Mentoring program is for the whole entire fraternity, which is national and international. We have chapters all around the world. And this program was something that we started when President Obama came into office, and it was a partnership with the White House on fatherhood and mentoring. Now, we were doing mentoring way before President Obama came into office. But when he talked about fatherhood, the fatherhood part was not there. So we made a presentation to our national body, and of course it was a resolution was passed to support the program and do the partnership. And we've been engaged in that partnership ever since. And that partnership has led to a lot of interesting things as we develop it. Myself and another gentleman named Tabiti Boone, we worked in partnership to put this thing together. Now, Tabiti has been he's been the outside guy. He's supposed to be the guy up here talking to y'all. But sometimes he gets himself in another part of the country and he ends up dumping it on me. So, but I'm the guy, if you would look at me, I'm the action person. I'm the person that makes it happen. I'm the guy in charge of the troops. I'm the, if you look in the military, I'm the field general. I'm the guy running the thing. So when we start talking about making the program work in the fraternity around the country, that's my job. I have a crew of 12 guys that help me all around the country. We're broken up into 12 districts, and those district fatherhood chairs help me run this program. And we have, in the fraternity, there are 750 some chapters, so we're all over the place. And I don't know if any of you know anything about Omega Men, but Omega Men have a tendency to be bold in their move and action. And so for some strange reason, people tend to listen to us when we start speaking, because sometimes I think that some of us think we're crazy. So when crazy people speak, they listen. It's kind of an interesting thought. But anyway, we've had some very positive results. The effort has gone on very well. In this partnership, our fraternity is based on some principles: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. And the first one, manhood, is very important to us. So when we looked at this thing, we're looking at young men and fathers. And one of the things we're doing, like I said, we were doing the mentoring side of this thing. So you got to think about it. If you're doing the mentoring side, you're really doing the father's job. So we said, well, let's pull these fathers in so they can see what we're doing and where are we going with this thing. Well, the guys are comfortable talking to the young men, but when it comes to talking to a grown man, that's a whole nother horse. Because a lot of times men carry certain macho thought processes about them and they don't share. Okay, so we've done a lot of things. We've worked with men in fatherhood groups and by partnering with other groups that are doing it. That's one way we've done it. We've also done it by following with some of the government agencies that have mandatory programs, whether it be through criminal justice or whatever, mandatory programs that way. But we've been looking into some other ways to make it happen. Now, on the fatherhood side, like I say, the mentoring side has been going very well. The fatherhood side has been going a little bit slow, but it's starting to pick up now because people are starting to see the value of it. And I had a personal experience that taught me something. I'm a former military person, and of course I got wounded in Vietnam, and of course I was exposed to Agent Orange, and that's why you see me up here in this little vehicle. One of the things that I went through, I went to the VA, and of course when you go to the VA the first time, they start asking you some questions, and then next thing you know, I'm talking to a psychiatrist, and I told them I didn't have any problem. They said I did. So as we got into the conversation, they suggested that I participate in this program called Coping Skills. Well, I learned a lot from that coping skill thing, because what it did, it took a bunch of people, put them in a room, and have a facilitator and have a conversation about issues and concern, getting men to talk. I said, that's a good idea. Okay, so when I went through that, I said, this is something we can probably use in the fraternity. Okay, because we've been having, sometimes, like I said, getting men out is a difficult thing. If you look around this room, how many men in this room? 10? Wait a minute. Okay, the men should be in here. Okay, but anyway, so what you have to do, you have to put a vehicle together to make that happen. So we proceed to do that. We've been having real good results from doing that. Sometimes we call it the barbershop. Sometimes we call it the locker room. Sometimes we call it the coping room, where you can sit down and feel free to talk. Now, men to men. And guys, ladies, I'm telling you, you don't want to come in that room. Because what's going on in that conversation, there's no hold barred. And it's good because you get guys to talk about their problems. Let me tell you what. I've been in some sessions, some real tear-jerking sessions. We had a session, here, I'm going to tell you one. We had a session down in Atlanta, and I'm listening to all the guys talk about their problems, their issues and concerns as they were going through this thing. And the question was asked, did you have a father in your life, and what impact did he have? So you got that conversation going on, father, son, my son, this. And then we had some young men. They talked about their fathers. But this one guy, he got up and he was crying his heart out about, I'm really having a difficult time dealing with my son. He just drives me crazy. And I'm doing everything I can. What can I help me? And what can I do? So as that conversation went on, we finally kind of gave him some solutions to how he could solve his problem. And so he said, okay, I'm going to try that. So he, and even after the program was over, guys came and talked to him a little bit after it was over. You know what happened to him that night? He went to his room and died. So when you see that kind of thing happen, you see how serious this is. Okay? You got to think about that. That father was that concerned about his son. He was so stressed, he was so out of it about his son, he just couldn't cope with it. He had a heart attack and died. So you see, this whole thing, a lot of people have made this mistake of saying fathers don't want to be involved in the lives of their kids. That is not true. I went to a session right here in Washington, D.C. with about 40 men, all of them very frustrated because they want to be involved in the lives of their kids. Okay, so we work on that thing. But they have mental problems that come out of this thing. They're so frustrated. We got people who have committed suicide down in Carolina. Father committed suicide because he's just frustrated because he couldn't deal with his son. We had another son kill his father, had a mental problem. So I'm saying all to say this, we got hooked into this partnership with NIH, and we got to talking about depression. And so we started talking about how we could address some of the things. So we came up with a couple of programs that we came out of it. And I think we passed the sheet out to you. You said, brother, you're on my mind. Our thing, friendship is essential to the soul. So basically what we're saying, we're reaching out to you. Okay? We want you to be engaged with us. We want you to work with us. We're going to help you. Okay? So what we have done is we have set up in such a way that we have these coping sessions. We have this dialogue to try to find and identify those people who have issues. And then we refer them to people like you all who specialize in how to deal with this stuff. So that has worked out very well. We have also done some things. We're working on another partnership now. And this partnership is with our chaplains, because what we're going to start now doing is reaching into the men's ministries in churches. So I've asked all our fatherhood chairs to work with all the chaplains, to work with all the communities. So we're looking for the men, okay? Because that's the missing link. If you change the mindset, a lot of the problems we have from a mental point of view won't be there. You got to take it and help these young men understand how to deal with certain things in life. And a lot of times it's something that a man has to share with a young boy. Okay? In the process of doing that, you help him to better understand how he's supposed to conduct himself. You can teach him how to deal with a policeman. You can teach him how to deal with another man. You can teach him how to deal person to person. And so they don't go out there killing each other. But without that, that's what they're doing. And they end up and then committing crimes or end up in jail. So we're trying to change that paradigm. I'm going to stop there because I'm getting the sign there, but I could go on and tell you a whole bunch more.
First, thank you for your presentation and your work.